Let's get real about a couple of things right now. So let's get right into this. Last night's loss against the Padres sucked. Okay. And one of the glaring problems for the Yankees right now, and I don't know if you know this, but the five of the Yankees' losses so far this year, the Yankees have been leading in the eighth inning. So that's a testament to problems residing in the bullpen. Okay. And some of it reared its ugly face last night again, obviously. Now, I'm going to say a couple things that people probably want to hear, but I'm also going to say a couple things that people probably not going to want to hear. Okay. And again, if you're a Yankee fan and you don't mind facts, please subscribe to this channel. Okay. Facts and reality. They may not agree with me all the time. They may not agree with you all the time, but it is what it is. We'll have our opinions and stuff like that, but the facts remain. They don't change. Opinions don't change them. Okay. Neither do talking points. There are far too many people find comments that they like on Twitter and use them as their arguments when they come on here. And when they're not residing in facts, they will be called out. Period. Okay? And last night, again, Devin Williams got off to a good start, got 2 outs, but he unloaded the bases, so and partly he did not do his job. People know this, right? But the other thing I'm going to say is people might not want to hear this, and I said this last night on the live stream, and not a single person acknowledged the reality. Devin Williams is not the guy that gave up the 2 hits that plated 4 runners. Luke Weaver was. Okay? So people can blame Devin Williams all they want, and he bears some responsibility, but so does Luke Weaver. I'm going to say it again. So does Luke Weaver. Period. Okay? This happens. It's part of baseball. I've been saying the same thing with Devin Williams. I said the same thing with Mariano Rivera. Even the guys that are at their best get knocked around on occasion. Luke Weaver got knocked around last night. Devin Williams set it up for him to be knocked around. So neither one of them did their job. Okay. Aside before that, Devin Williams was pretty damn good in the 3 appearances in the 8th inning leading up to that point. But last night, and again, the game was messy, rainy, sloppy. So it was just a crappy day to play baseball. The Yankees had a 3-0 lead that they couldn't hold. Right. And they had opportunities to score more runs. They did not capitalize on that. Period. Okay. Now, I'm going to say something too. This is from a logical thought process here. Okay. This is also from somebody who used to play baseball, who has a decent understanding of the game, but someone who's also been a musculoskeletal and physical, physiologist for the last 2 decades. Okay. So I have an understanding of human anatomy and physiology and recovery that needs to be factored in. Maybe, and I can't speak for the Yankees, but this is what I saw last night, because people were upset that Aaron Boone didn't bring Fernando Cruz back out for the next inning. Maybe that 1 out was all they needed. Okay, and they felt good having a 3-run lead, and they didn't want to use a guy that they've been using a lot recently, Fernando Cruz. And I've said this repeatedly over the last week to watch out for the use of Fernando Cruz and Ryan Yarbrough. Right? To not overuse them, because we need them to be good towards the end of the season. Okay? I've said this repeatedly, but people are accusing me of making excuses for Aaron Boone. Use your Twitter talking points all you want. Okay? Does nothing for your argument. Doesn't change the facts. Okay? They had a 3-run lead. That's the way I saw it. Okay? Cruz did his job. Maybe they want to give him a little bit of recovery. Okay, and from a recovery and a physiology standpoint, and can speak from baseball experience and even an experience as a competitive runner. Okay, if you do too much too soon, it's going to limit your ability to recover from when you need it to the most towards the end of the season. Okay, whether it's baseball or racing, if you overload them too soon, at some point they're going to stop being good or stop being sharp. Okay, that is a fact. Okay, period. So maybe that's why, and I can't speak for them again. Maybe that's why they used Fernando Cruz for the 1 out. He did his job, didn't want to risk injury and bring him out there again. And they brought in the other guys after that. That could be a reason. Okay. So, but I do think a reinforcement. We've got Johnny Loizio coming back soon, Clayton Beater, potentially Jake Cousins, and a couple other guys, and obviously Luis Hill at some point coming back too. So we have reinforcements on the pitching side, which are going to be helpful. But in the meantime, I wouldn't be surprised if they add or call up somebody like an Alan Winans or a Cam Schlittler. We've mentioned these guys over the last couple of days. There are guys that have been producing at the lower levels of the system, or under the major leagues, I should say, that might be valuable pieces here. But again, the question is, who do you option out? Because right now there's a 13 pitcher maximum. So in order to bring up a pitcher, you have to option out a pitcher, or DFA a pitcher, whatnot. You can't option a position player to bring in a pitcher, unfortunately. Okay, the rules don't allow it at this point. There is some flexibility, but there's a timeline to that. Okay, you can have more than 13 pitchers, but you can't do it until September 1st. We are months before that. Okay, that's unfortunately a baseball rule. I wish it weren't, but it is. But the fact matters, again, for those that were attacking me, and go right ahead and attack. I don't do much. Okay. Okay, and then the tough guys on Twitter too. I mean, do people just look for somebody who makes a comment that they like on Twitter and then run with that as their argument for the night? Because why does the argument change every single night? Is there any consistency to the talking points of the arguments? I don't see it. The only consistency is blame Boone. Figure out a way to blame him. Blame Cashman. Right? There wasn't a single person that acknowledged that Luke Weaver did not do his job. It was only Devin Williams. Only Devin Williams. It was both of them. Okay? Both of them. And I love Luke Weaver as much as the next fan does. But this has to be said. Because it's true. Opinions do not change this. He didn't do his job last night. Am I confident that he'll rebound? Yeah, I'm confident. But that's a fact. This happens in baseball. I say it repeatedly. People accuse me of making excuses for Aaron Boone. This is a reality in baseball. Anybody who played the sport knows this is a reality. This is why a short man. I mentioned this too. And even Cashman said this is why having a short memory is important. Moving on from the day before. To not let it get to you in a long season. So instead of accusing people of accusing people saying, well, the early season games don't count. They don't count as much as the late season games. It's a fact too. Okay? There's a long season. And we have to factor in other teams too. How they perform and how they don't perform. It's not to say they don't matter at all. They just don't matter as much as the late season games. Championships are not won in April. They're not won in May. Okay? The rosters can look different at the trade deadline for the new additions that come in, roster expansion, and so on. This changes every team every single year for the teams that take advantage of it, I should say. The teams that are active participating in it. But what is the problem? Acknowledging that Luke Weaver was off last night. It's okay to say it. Doesn't make you a bad person. Doesn't make you a bad fan. Why is it so easy to just pivot the blame to Devin Williams and to Aaron Boone and to kind of abandon the team and accuse Boone of mismanaging the bullpen? Well, fact too, our starters haven't given us enough length. Cookie Carrasco, Will Warren. So what's Boone having to do? He has to overuse the bullpen. He has no choice. Okay? This is a fact. Not an opinion. If you watch the game, you'll see it. And you'll see with your very eyes, if you overuse somebody, at some point, they stop becoming effective or they become less effective. This is just a physical reality. In any sport you play, you have to factor in recovery to the usage. Absolutely have to. I've said this repeatedly too. This is why I'm a proponent of sitting Aaron Judge, maybe a day every other week, even though he's on a heater or whatever, or Stanton, because these guys are bigger guys. Or any athlete to phase in regular recovery. Okay? So that they can continue to be effective for a long season. And I say the same thing with running, too, for the long season. We run 3 seasons, cross-country, indoor, and track. It's a long year. We have to factor in recovery so the athletes can be effective when they need them to be. We don't need them to be effective in the beginning of the season. We need them to be effective at the end of the season, during championships. Just like the Yankees, we need the Yankees to be effective in the postseason, right? So do folks factor this stuff in? We got to let these guys recover. We need more length from our starters. Yeah, we need Clark Schmidt to get back to full strength. He's not there yet. Yes. We need Luis Hill back. Yes. Do we want to overpay for a mediocre starter? No. Right? So our options right now are limited. Why? It's not because of Brian Cashman being lazy. It's because nobody's available. That's good. And especially that's worth overpaying for. This applies everywhere. The Dodgers need starters too. You see them getting any? No. They're not in first place either. Glasnow's out. Snell's out. Are they adding starters? No. They're also not panicking, just like the Yankees are not panicking. So I needed to say that. People are welcome to disagree all the time or agree. Your opinions are relevant. They're important. But if you're going to bring an opinion that's not based in facts, and you know that it's not based in facts, it will get called out here. Period. Okay? This is my vent session for today. You guys get to vent, and you guys get to vent all the time in the live streams. That's totally fine. Totally fine. Okay? It's okay to vent. But it's also okay for me to vent. And again, I'm using logic to complement my argument. I'm using facts to complement my argument. And if facts tend to counter talking points and narratives, then sometimes folks accuse me of making excuses for Boone and Cashman, just like they were doing last night on the live stream. Making excuses for Boone. No, I wasn't. I said specifically last night, okay, maybe they didn't want to bring Cruz back out because they used him a lot. But I can't speak for them. But speaking as a former baseball player, that made sense. Knowing the human body, that makes sense. Okay? Those are my arguments. Let's get into it. Obviously, I'll be back later. And thank you for hearing me out if you got this far. Okay? Thank you. But I'll be back later with the lineup. The Yankees need to win tonight. Yeah, that'd be great if they did. Okay? They need to rectify some of these issues. We need our bats to be more consistent. All this stuff. But this is said everywhere, every single time. I just don't add the blame Boone and blame Cashman to every single day like other people do. It is absolutely pointless when you don't factor in this type of stuff. Because all these things matter. And if you were a competitive athlete, if you're around the sport, you played a game, you understand this. If you don't, you don't. And it's pretty clear to see who uses Twitter talking points for their arguments, especially when they can't back them up with facts. And they just wait for someone's new argument tomorrow to pivot their argument. But the overriding consistent fact is the same thing. Let's figure out a way to twist this into blaming Boone and blaming Brian Cashman. That's totally fine if you want to do that. But I don't do that. Doesn't mean I make excuses for them. Okay? But the hot spot today is, yeah, both guys did not do their job. One guy, I'm sure you like hearing. One guy, I'm sure you didn't like hearing. But that doesn't change the fact. Let's talk about it. Give me your comments. Have a good day. Peace.